All right, welcome everybody to session 12 of our series, The Dive and the Driver. Our guest today is Anurag Jain, and the entire credit for this session is down to one of our well-wishers and listeners, Gautam, who is also with us today. Like I've said many times before, this series at the is primarily driven by our listeners. So here is another one making its way to that list. Anurag Jain is joining us all the way from the Indian city of Jamshedpur. He is a writer of a blog called NeevSelfInquiry. In this website, Anurag writes and teaches self-inquiry. Sorry about that. There was like somebody entering, so I missed out. Yeah, so on this website, NeevSelfInquiry, Anurag writes and teaches self-inquiry through the traditional Indian school of Advaita Vedanta. This also has a campus in Harlang village, Jamshedpur, which Anurag and his wife Shikha are in the process of developing. He also runs 2 Facebook groups to teach self-inquiry that one can join. The link to the groups can be found through his webpage. And after this session, when I post the video, you all can find the links and the details in there and explore the beautiful work of Anurag's. I would also like to welcome my co-host and my I would also like to welcome my co-host and my adorable friend Priya, who will be leading the session today. Also worth mentioning that this is a space which is very, very open and very interactive, but I would request you to mute yourself because just now we had a little bit of, thing in the between. So just mute yourself. When you want to ask a question, please unmute yourself. If you don't want to ask, just type the question out in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll give you the space to ask your questions. So welcome everybody, and Priya, I'll hand over to you. Welcome Anurag, and thank you for taking time out to join us today.
Thank you Tapashri, and thank you Priya.
Hello Anurag ji, welcome. I'd start by asking you this question. Why according to you should one indulge in self-inquiry? Or if I may put it in other words, what is self-inquiry?
All right. You see, at a certain point in your life, there are certain fundamental questions that come to you and which are not answered in anywhere in your syllabus, in your schools, in your colleges. So something like this happened to me in my second year in college. And I was struck by this question of, what is death and what is the purpose of life if we are going to die one day. So all the activities that we are doing in life seem utterly meaningless to me if it is all going to end one day. Now, this kind of thinking does not come to everyone. I mean, some people are just fine with this. So there is this what we call materialistic thinking, which says that, you live and enjoy life, and you live a mix of pain and pleasure, and finally you die. That's about it. But to certain natures, and now this cannot be explained, why to certain natures this does not actually satisfy the mind, and that is when the self-inquiry is born. So if somebody goes through my blogs, you will find the story of Nachiket in the Upanishads, and the story of Buddha, who all started on their mission of self-inquiry with this question only. What is death? What is suffering? And is there a permanent ending of suffering possible? So these are the questions which lead you to self-inquiry.
So following on from there, what if, like you very well said, that not everyone is bothered about self-inquiry and not everyone asks. So for example, the work that you do with the school that you have and the setup that you have, how would you explain to a person who has never, who probably these questions are there, but they don't come out on the surface? How would you explain self-inquiry to somebody like that?
One thing which I would like to correct is that I did run a school till 2017. And then after that, I ended the school because I felt that the school is not a helpful structure for me to talk about self-inquiry, right?
And
So
why
I
was
ended.
that? If sorry, why was that, if I may ask?
Yeah, again, this is also mentioned in my blog. So the thing is that whenever you are in a transaction, okay, uh, a transaction always implies a give and a take. So self inquiry is a school is a kind of a place where the parents are giving you money, they're paying fees to you, not to help children in self inquiry. they are they are paying you fees to get your children get the children a certificate,
Okay.
okay,
Hmm.
and then to get a job.
Hmm.
So self inquiry is actually antithetical to such a process. It
Right.
actually leads you away from the what in our terms it's called rajasic life, yeah, the life of activity and busyness. Self inquiry is actually opposite to it. So, coming back to your question on how do you explain self inquiry to a person who's not bothered,
Yeah.
the right answer is that you don't bother.
that's
Right?
that's very well put. Okay, now I mean it's not okay. There are people who are not bothered, which is
Yeah.
fine. Now, for example, you see that somebody, say for example, someone watches you where you live, your society, and people watch you, do the work that you do, and they are intrigued by it, but they do not have the right words to ask the right questions. So,
Okay.
how would you explain this entire curiosity or this entire quest to somebody like that? Because in your position, I'm assuming this is under an assumption that you can assume that people, when you interact with somebody, you understand where this person is coming from, and you probably want to help them, or you probably want to give them a direction. Now, how would you do that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my answer would not be as you may have expected, but
I have no
you.
expectation, so it's all your flow. Go on.
Okay, fine. So I am actually a person who puts down people. So, Advaita is such a. See, one thing is I'm very serious about this because for me, it is not a profession, it's not a career, it's not anything but just sheer truth. So, and I know that the number of people who are really interested to go the last mile are very few. So I don't bother with people who are not having the sufficient fuel in them, right? If you in the literature of Advaita,
Hmm.
uh, it is said that you must have four qualifications before you give this teaching to somebody. So that person should have these four qualifications. So what are these four qualifications? The first one is discrimination. I
Hmm.
mean, the person must have discriminated the fact that this world is not going to give me permanent happiness.
Hmm.
The second qualification is vairagya. So from that discrimination, the person should have got sufficient dissatisfaction from the world, and he should have come to that point in his journey that I want to seek something which is not present in this world. I want to seek a truth which is not to be found in this world of forms. That's
Okay.
the second qualification. The third is to do with the mental qualifications, which is to do with, the person should have the powers of intellectual powers, concentration, body control, mind control, fortitude, endurance. These are the requirements. And then the fourth requirement, the most important one, is that he should have a burning desire for liberation. So if you don't have these four qualifications, then it is something which you will be going behind the person rather than the person coming to you. And I am a teacher uh, of, you can say, a sort of ancient type or an ancient tradition where the teacher doesn't go out to seek students. The teacher just lives his life, as you very rightly said. I see my life, nobody knows anything. I mean, I'm a very normal person living, just living in my house. People do come to know about me through my writings,
Hmm.
and I make no special efforts of any kind to popularize myself.
Hmm.
So when people do come through my writings and they have the initiative to come and approach me,
Hmm.
and then I ask them certain questions, and if I am satisfied that this person is going to benefit from the teachings of Advaita,
Hmm.
then I start my process
Okay.
of teaching. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, at what point did you decide that you wanted to become a teacher, or you wanted to impart this knowledge and teach?
Specifically, the point where I became sure that, I've got the truth. And that was somewhere in uh, March of this year.
Okay. And but you said that you were you had a school before. So, what was that school also for self-inquiry, or was that school for
No,
something?
no, that school was a normal school I mean, it was part of my social work. It was a school for children who couldn't afford a good quality education.
Okay.
Uh,
And
I did teach self-inquiry there, and some of the students who study with me today
hmm,
in the Facebook groups, they belong to that school.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
read about that work of yours, and I thought that was maybe I misread, because I thought that was pretty much like a normal school, like a teacher, a teaching profession, and then you got into self-inquiry as your main subject, if you like, or the main discipline onto what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do.
That happened in this year, in
Okay.
2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you, so this whole desire to teach, so this teaching of self-inquiry, just as you said, it happened this year, but this entire desire to teach and share and impart this knowledge, um,
Right.
was it always there in you when you were growing up, or was it ever that you wanted to, because I read that you're an engineer by profession, you're trained engineer,
Yeah.
so was it ever that so at what point did you decide that you want to become a teacher, like a teacher, but not really say a manager in a multinational or something?
Yeah, I get your question. So that happened when actually my self-inquiry started. So when I was in college, my self-inquiry started. That's somewhere around in 1995. And that's when I decided that I have to devote myself to a life of self-inquiry, and I cannot be doing corporate jobs. I mean, I tried. I did get into Larsen and Toubro as a graduate trainee, and I did try to do my self-inquiry along with the corporate job, but I did not last more than 8 months. And so then I was, yeah. So so after that I was thinking, what to do, because you need to earn your livelihood. So one of the options, it was a coincidence that at that time I was happened to be in Chennai, which is also the headquarters for Krishnamurti Foundation.
Oh.
And I was absolutely into Krishnamurti. I mean, 100% into him. So I thought that the best thing would be to go and approach that foundation, and perhaps I can take some low key librarian kind of work or something. So I went there first.
Hmm.
And then they said that, see, we don't have an opening right now, but probably they have an opening in the school. So
Hmm.
I said, no, 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 no. I am done with all organization work. I want to pursue my self inquiry and don't want to get involved in any organizations. So thank you. I don't want that.
Okay.
So I came back, and a week later, I thought for about a week. And then I felt, see, I'm not going to get any. I mean, this was my last chance. And if I don't get here, then there is. I also tried going to the philosophy, trying to do my MA in philosophy. So I went to the University of Madras
Mhm.
and and the moment I entered and I saw those benches and the professor, I said, I said, no, no, no more of this academic thing for me now. So I came out of it, and they went back to the foundation. I said, okay, if you don't have an opening here, I'm ready to go and join the school. So I joined the school half-heartedly, actually. And I thought I would just do some basic teaching and then just come off and spend the rest of my time in self-inquiry.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, it happened that that school was the Krishnamurti Foundation School of Chennai.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it was very active. I mean, it was just the opposite of what I thought.
Hmm.
And they did talk about self inquiry in that school. But somehow I was always dissatisfied with it. I mean, I felt that the organization was always overpowering the inquiry part of it.
Hmm.
And that was the first point in a whole range of my negations of the outer world, where I found that self inquiry can never happen in an organizational setup. So I tried in the school. I saw it's always the organization matters that become more important, because ultimately you have to pay a salary. You have to uh, so that is imperative,
Hmm.
not self inquiry.
Hmm.
And so I had my differences, and I had also some problems in the school, because of which I had to leave.
Hmm.
And then I came back to my hometown. I actually tried to. It will be a long story. I mean, my story is very long. So, okay, that's how I got into education. And then after that, because I started and did education for 4 years there, and when I came back to my hometown, I thought that that's what I was doing. So I should better do this, continue with it. So I became the principal of a school here, and I got very interested actually in the whole process of education and children when I started off here as a school principal. Then after that, I started my own school. But then ultimately, I found the same thing again. The same organizational matters. Even if it is my own school, my parents are not sending the children for self inquiry.
Hmm.
They are sending their children to get a job and a degree, and especially because they were for underprivileged children.
Hmm.
So what I found was actually quite interesting. I found that the children are quite interested in it.
Hmm.
I mean, there are many, not all children. Again,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
it's not something which will go to all children. My own daughter, for example, who studied in the school, she doesn't find that interest in this at all, right?
Okay. But
So,
isn't it so? Okay, we'll come to this. Finish your story.
yeah.
I have an interesting follow up to ask.
Sure, sure. So I realized that, no, and the other thing also is that the organization always has issues of authority. I mean, children relate to me because I'm the school principal
Hmm.
in a certain way, even though I was very democratic.
Hmm.
But eventually, there is always this, transaction that is going on. And I realized that no matter what I do, till the time I'm running an organization, I was not just a principal, I was also a social entrepreneur.
Hmm.
We had a herbal business.
Hmm.
So I found that people are not able to talk to me without my role.
Hmm.
They will, no matter how much I speak, I will talk about self inquiry, my throat runs dry, I will write so many articles,
Hmm.
but they see what work I am doing. They will see me working as a social entrepreneur, they will see me as an educator, and that's how they will relate to me.
Hmm.
So at around 2017, that started getting suffocating for me.
Hmm.
I mean, I realized that no, I don't want any more relationships which are transactional in this sense,
Hmm.
and I'm fine being a nothing and a nobody. But
Hmm.
I want people to relate to me as I am, and that is that I am an Advaita, an Advaitin.
Hmm.
So I gave up all organizations. I wound up everything, and from 2017 to 2020, I was actually just doing carpentry alone in. Yeah, it was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
to come out of organization and
It sounds fun.
just
So
get
what did
out
you
of.
make? What did you make? as
I was making all kinds of things. I was making machines. I was making whatever my mother wanted in the house. I mean, furniture, chairs, tables, every kind of thing, gadgets, everything.
that's very exciting.
So and I learned, yeah, I learned all from YouTube only. But then again, the strange thing was, I mean, see, I had got my insight into the final nature of reality in 2012
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
But then there were some doubts that I had, and my Advaita teacher, who was, online. I mean, we never met, and we just had a very sparse correspondence.
Hmm.
So he was, when I asked him certain questions, he used to get very angry. So and yeah, and then our relationship soured, and then I had to leave him. So I was left with those questions, with those doubts of Advaita.
Hmm.
So, and it is a known fact in Advaita that your knowledge has to be firm. Then
Hmm.
only it gives you the liberation.
Yes.
So for it's so I mean, all these years I was still into the you can say a half enlightened being, if something like that exists.
Hmm.
So but then it caught up. I mean, once after I did my carpentry for 2 years alone in a workshop, I think it was a kind of a dynamic meditation that was happening with me. And then at one point I just left everything, and I was just alone in the room, and I was all the time alone and just looking at my thoughts. And then finally it burst, and I did some more reading, and I finally found the truth. I mean, the absolute truth, without any doubts. And that's when I started my teaching, because I never wanted to teach till I didn't know the truth.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Priya has a question for you. I'm going to hold on to my
Yes.
question and come back later, Priya.
Sure. Sure.
Anuragji, I have a question for you. You mentioned in your page that you follow the path of Gyan Yoga. Um,
Absolutely.
so, what is this Jnana Yoga? Could you define it for us?
Yeah. You see, this is the most essential part of the whole teaching, that the truth is not an experience. This is what sets apart Advaita from every other teaching that is there. The truth is knowledge, because the reason being that experience is a duality. What do you mean by duality? There is a subject and there is an object, right? I mean, I am there and there is something which I perceive. So there are two things. Whereas
Right.
in knowledge, you, the final reality, which is called Brahman, or which is awareness, or which is self, or witness, it is beyond the subject object duality, and it is you yourself. So you cannot experience yourself. Whatever you experience is out of you,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
how do you know you yourself? You know you yourself by knowledge. No matter what experiences you have, you cannot know yourself. An example that is given is, uh, um, you know uh, say suppose you have got you're working, and by mistake you put your pencil over your ear, right? Usually we keep it there, and you are searching, where's the pencil, where's the pencil, where's the pencil, and you are experiencing all objects everywhere, but you can't find the pencil, right? Whereas the pencil is always there with you, it's right above your ear.
Hmm.
Okay, so somebody has to come and tell you, has to give you the knowledge that, see, your pencil is there. Okay, no amount of experience can help you in that.
Hmm.
It is just the knowledge of who you are.
Hmm.
So Gyan Yoga is about that knowledge of who you are in your essence. And what Gyan Yoga is saying, or what Advaita is saying, is that you right now misidentify yourself. You think that you are this body, mind, intellect, but you are not actually this body, mind, intellect. You are actually formless.
Yeah.
right? Your essential nature is formless. The form, the body, mind, intellect is only a superimposition on your essential nature,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So no amount of experience can tell you who you are. Only knowledge can tell you who you are.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
I
so
agree. I mean, yeah, I think what you said makes sense. But here I have a question.
yeah,
Now,
sure.
when people experience something, right? They
Correct.
experience, and a lot of, so in this particular, in let's take this path of spirituality. So when somebody starts to meditate or starts to sort of ask questions as to who am I, and they go on to different, there are different ways people jump onto this path, and they travel in all directions. So experiences for some people, for some individuals, become a very, very important aspect to keep continuing, because
Yes.
they experience something which gives them a which takes them to a space where they would like to be, takes them to a happy space, a meditative, contemplative space, and they like that
Yes.
experience and they want to continue with it.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is like going beyond the experiences, and the true knowledge, the truth exactly, kind of comes with that knowledge that you just very
Yes.
well defined. Now,
Right.
how do you think, or in your experience, since you have come this long way and you have been through different paths in your own life, in your own space, what do you think is the relevance of experience and knowledge? So do they run parallel to each other, or there comes a point when one takes over, or one needs to do something to let it take over? What do you think?
You see, it all depends upon your temperament. There is not one size that fits all.
Yeah.
So, there are different paths. Now, for example, if you take Tantra, I mean, it is almost diametrically opposed to Advaita, because Tantra is all about experience, right?
Yeah.
It is talking about refining your experience and finding the spirituality in your experience. And Advaita is the opposite spectrum of it. It says that all experience, actually, experience is the beginning of duality,
Yeah.
and the truth is non-dual. So the truth exists. So according to Advaita, the moment you have come to the realm of experience, you're already in ignorance.
Hmm.
Okay. So now in my own journey, of course, like everybody else, I started with this notion that it's all about experiences.
Yeah.
And I very early in my journey in college itself, I had the awakening of Kundalini
Yeah.
in, in around 96,
Hmm.
97.
Hmm.
And it was, I mean, it wasn't any blissful experience. It was quite painful and, yeah, very painful and very disturbing, very destructive kind of experience. Of course, not as neurotic as it happens to some people. For me, it was for some 2-3 months, it remained that way, and then it subsided and became part of my life.
Yeah.
Um, but the point was that, I was reading a lot of Krishnamurti,
Hmm.
and Krishnamurti all throughout has been hammering on experiences in his teachings. So he says what he says, and it made a lot of sense. He says, "See, what are you doing? You are, instead of you have got bored with your life. You don't find anything to hang on into your life. You've got bored of all the pleasures. So you invent another big pleasure in your life, which
Yeah.
is called spirituality."
Hmm.
Or you want to. So he says it's nothing. He says it's almost like a movie,
Yeah.
uh, right?
Yeah.
And the critique of that in Advaita is that, of course, for a long time I didn't come to Advaita. I mean, I came to Advaita in a month and I got my insight. So Krishnamurti was quite powerful in that regard for me in my journey. So Krishnamurti had already, shown me the limitations of experience,
Hmm.
not as powerfully as Advaita, but because Krishnamurti himself talks a lot about his own experiences.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Right. most of the time it is about his experiences. Yeah.
Right,
Correct.
absolutely. So that was a kind of, so this and along with many other things were contradictions in his teachings,
Yeah.
which actually got me to a stalemate.
Hmm.
And that's why I went out of him to finally go to Advaita, because I couldn't find the answers to the questions which he had, the contradictions in his teachings.
Hmm.
So I did not bother much about experiences. I was more bothered about, I, from the beginning, had the intuition of a formless reality.
Hmm.
And over time in my inquiry, I kind of understood that the experiencing, the desire for experience is a desire.
Hmm.
It is not, uh, experience is not going to end the suffering, because experiences are happening in time. Okay,
Yeah.
say you don't have any experience right now, after some time you will have an experience, but that will come to an end.
Hmm.
You're back to the same state,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't cause a state change in you.
No.
So I therefore I as my inquiry progressed, I became more and more towards the formless. But I must say that the desire for experience did not go for a very, very long time, until the time I got very, very firm in the knowledge of Advaita. I mean, I had to really, really, really go through a lot of negations
Yeah.
uh, to come to understand
Hmm.
that knowledge is the truth and not experience. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And this is a problem with, yeah, and this is a problem even, I mean, even if you go in Advaita,
Yeah.
people are not free from this desire of experience. Because if you see the teachings of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, who claim that they are teaching Advaita,
Yeah.
they are not. They are actually talking about yoga. They are
Yeah.
talking about samadhi,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's not Advaita.
That is
That's not Advaita.
that's a
So
different kind of
I was,
experience. What they are talking about is also experience.
it's also an experience. Like if you talk about Nirvikalp Samadhi, you
Yeah.
get into Nirvikalp Samadhi
Yeah.
and then you come out of Nirvikalp Samadhi, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas what Advaita is talking about is a permanent state. It is timeless. It is not bound in time. You don't come out of it and get into it,
No. No, you're
right?
right. I mean,
It is
I am with
talking about,
you.
yeah. So it is talking about what you are eternally. It
Yeah.
is not a state.
No.
It is what you are eternally in your essence. You don't ever come out of it.
Yeah.
You never go into it and you never come out of it. You
Exactly.
are always that. So
Exactly.
that is the, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Beautiful.
So
That's
so
beautiful.
in the Upanishad they say, yeah, so in the Upanishad they say Tattvam Asi. You are Brahman.
Yeah.
Okay. Please mark these words. It is not saying you must become Brahman.
No.
What is it saying? It's saying you are Brahman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything to become. So the greatest thing about knowledge yoga is that no amount of action
Mm,
can actually take you to truth, because action itself
mm,
is happening
mm,
when you are in the field of experience.
mm.
So your action is happening in the field of ignorance,
Yeah.
right? So what, now coming back again to your question, so what, seeing this desire for experience, seeing this, that is where all the people start. So what Shankara's Advaita says is, okay, you start from there, you start from karma yoga, bhakti yoga, or raj yoga. You can start from there, purify your mind, and then you can come to Gyan Yoga,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right? So it gives you that, it says that for the purification of mind you can have these paths, but then ultimate truth is through knowledge by identity, which is Gyan Yoga. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question, Anurag ji.
Yeah.
What took you to Krishnamurti in the first place? How did you get motivated to Krishnamurti's philosophy?
Actually, it was quite dramatic in the sense I was in, I mean, I had gone to college and I faced a lot of ragging there. I mean, immense amount of ragging, which I had never expected. Getting physically hit and slapped and all the gruesomeness of it. So already from my childhood, I had a nature to be more philosophical and psychological inquiry. So I got a big distaste when I saw all this reality. Because when I was in school and in my colony, we were living a very sheltered life. We hadn't seen all this. So when I came across this kind of reality, I was shattered. And I was thinking that I must actually leave the world. I mean, I somehow came across this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. You must have read it. I mean, it's
Paramhansa
Swami,
Anand.
yeah, Paramhans Yogananda. Yeah, and that book was like mind blowing for me. It's full of experiences.
Yes, it just makes you feel like there is something out there that you need to feel, you need to experience it, and
Absolutely,
that is
yeah.
all that spirituality
Yeah,
is.
that is full of spirit. So that was my first, full-blown experience of reading a spiritual book, and it kind of actually. I mean, there was just a hairbreadth distance from where I could have actually donned the saffron robe and gone. So I was in that state when I was walking in my college library one day in this state, and I was searching for some technical book of my course.
Hmm.
And while I was walking across the aisle, very mysteriously, I don't know how, very mysteriously, this one book, it just tilted itself
Hmm.
and came into my view.
Okay,
It
that's
sounds
nice.
mysterious, but it's exactly that's what it happened. It just
No,
kind
you're
of
talking
tilted.
to the right audience. We have all had one or two experiences like that, all of us combined who's listening to you today. So go on.
Okay. Right. So this book just tilted, and I saw this book and I saw this face of Krishnamurti. It was like a full blown cover, with just his face.
Hmm.
And the title of the book was Network of Thought. And, when I saw that face of that person, it was magnetic. I mean, I felt powerfully drawn to it, and the title was even more magnetic to me
Hmm.
because I was feeling that. I mean, I never thought that somebody could be talking about thought. You never heard somebody saying that you have to inquire into thought. You're always using thought to do things. Nobody talks about to inquire into it.
Hmm.
So I just picked up that book,
Hmm.
and I I mean I was just stung by it.
Hmm.
I read it for days and days, and everybody in my college started calling me Krishnamurti after that. But the interesting thing was that when I read that book, I thought that I got all the answers. I mean, everything I have found. And I actually put it down and thought myself to be, beyond all this now. And I started living my normal life.
Yeah.
And it's then when I met Shikha in college, and we were planning to do our MBA.
Hmm.
And one day she told me that, you know, uh, see, all this that we are doing is not anything great. What Buddha did was great.
Hmm.
So I'm just cutting the story short, right? So I kind of, again, something within me just hit me.
Hmm.
And I don't know what happened. I went back to my room and I couldn't sleep that night. And by the morning, I decided that, yeah, she's right. I mean, if I want to make money, I know the way. I
Hmm.
just have to work for it. And that's all.
Hmm.
Whether I get it or don't get it, it's a different thing, but I know the way. But I had absolutely no clue about what this guy is talking about. So I picked it up as a challenge. I told myself, no, I don't want to take these simple paths. I want to take up that.
Yeah.
That is something which is the highest. And Shikha was right in it. So I went back to her and said, see, Shikha, it's done. My life's purpose is now this.
Hmm.
And And whatever I did, I used to do it with great sincerity. I mean, I even tried, we both of us didn't even give our biodatas for the campus interview.
Yeah.
And at the last moment, we realized that, okay, we don't have any other choice. Uh, so we went back and cried and gave back our biodatas. Then the first company that came, I made it my aim. So, spirituality is not just about, at least the initial phases,
Yeah.
it's not just about God. It's also about in your daily life, you have to struggle
Yeah.
uh, with the experiences and the situations. And the daily life is actually, so that's the Karma Yoga part, where you develop those four qualities which I talked about,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the daily existence, if spirituality is something that you have to go out of your daily life and do something, then that doesn't become a behavior. It's like something that you're doing and you're coming back into your normal morning state. So that doesn't help either way. So
Absolutely.
if it has
Yeah.
to become a part of you, it has to be something that is free, that is flowing through all of you. Your entire being is like flowing into
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
So I
Right.
completely understand what you're talking about. Tell
Yeah.
me, Anurag, did you ever face this pressure of the society, which sort of maybe looked down upon you or maybe questioned your intent of just leaving a high paying job and everything and just going this way?
Oh my God. My whole life was that. Every inch of it was that. I mean, I had to struggle, fight. I was a very angry person, and I still do get angry. But it's all because of this fighting which I had to do with society. I had a love marriage. I had to fight for that.
Yeah,
I left my corporate job. I had to fight for that.
yeah,
Then my daughter's education, I did it in my school. I had to fight for that.
yeah,
uh, all, I mean, uh, uh, every inch of the way I had to fight,
yeah.
every inch. Yeah.
But
I
that,
mean it.
that's a nice thing. That's, I mean, it's like a major part of your life is done. So, like you did all that in the earlier part of your life. So now when you step into something that you really are, quite passionate about, it's driven from your heart, from your soul. And I think now, do you think you're pretty much have come on your own after all this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't be an Advaita teacher if you haven't gone through all this.
Mm,
Impossible. There's this whole theory of vasanas.
mm,
Vasanas are the mental impressions, subliminal impressions in your mind.
mm, mm,
So till the time you haven't gone through this grind,
mm,
you have not exhausted your vasanas,
mm,
and which means that you would not have got that kind of those four qualifications: the vairagya,
mm,
the discrimination, the
mm,
mental fortitude, endurance, all
mm,
those qualities,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
You won't come to it. No,
Yeah.
not at all. So you have to go through all this. It's a very long path.
But
And
when you were going through it, was it disheartening? Was it something that you questioned yourself at any given point? Or were you really like, okay, I know that's happening, but I know there is something bigger or the thing that's waiting for me is something different and I trust that. How
in
did it work for you?
Oh my, again. I mean, in the beginning, at least, there were times when I used to curse myself. I used to feel cursed. I
Ah,
used to tell, God, why have you given this to me? I used to see people all around me, the normal people doing their shopping, enjoying life,
mm,
and I was this 23-year-old, 24-year-old sitting with these big questions and boiling over them and disturbing myself, and all others are just having a nice time, and I used to feel jealous. I used to feel jealous and envious of them. And I remember when I left my job, I mean, when we had just got our job, and Shikha and I both were engineers, and my wife Shikha, and we both were engineers, and we used to get a handsome amount at that time, and we used to go into a supermarket in Chennai, and we just had to think, I want this, and we would just get it.
mm,
And from that state when I left the job, to come to a state where I had to think, I had to count even 1 rupee in
Yeah.
my accounting book.
Yeah.
It was a terrible ordeal,
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
through a kind of a fight within oneself. Did I do the right thing? I mean,
Yeah.
should I be going after this money, or in this journey I don't know where I'm going to reach. There is a known thing out there. I
Hmm.
have left that for this unknown thing.
Hmm.
So I did go through those phases, and so early phases, and
Hmm.
then it kind of slowly started stabilizing. But even in my middle phase, there were times which were not related to the outer. Slowly, the battle shifts inside. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm reading Krishna, and Krishnamurti is notorious in, not giving any methodology,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, as are many other modern teachers today,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, I would be in a lurch. I mean, what to do? There is I am trying to find out truth, and I would ask myself, I'm trying to find out truth, but I don't know what is truth. So what the heck am I trying to find out?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I went through a lot of turmoil, a lot of mental. I used to go through these periods of depression. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, having no interest in the outer life, in outer work. I
Hmm.
used to be in school, and I was a teacher. So
Hmm.
there were days when I couldn't put my couldn't just walk. Every step that I would be taking to the school, I just wanted to run away. But then I had to do, because it was a question of livelihood. So I did go through. I don't think self-inquiry, I mean, is a very silent and a very peaceful process. It was not for me. It was very, very
Absolutely not. And you would be, I don't think it will surprise you, because we've had many guests in the past in this series, and we had one lovely guest who joined us from Netherlands, and she said that it's a very, very lonely process. And
yeah,
it goes to a point where people are like, what the hell are you doing? Are you okay?
right,
And you got to battle those questions around to sort of come
yeah,
into your own and just
yeah,
be true to that.
right. Yeah, in fact, I mean, the biggest battle, I didn't even speak about it, is to do with morality. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh
yeah, the self-inquiry takes you through patches where you are doing things which are absolutely immoral. And believe me, you have to go through it. I mean, it's a kind of you're just dragged over the coals. I
Oh
mean,
yes. So do you have this? Do you have this? So when you sort of went into this whole phase, did you when you were asking, "Oh my God, God, why did you make me like this? Why can I not be like the other five people that I see around?" Um,
right.
what exactly got you into into this? What was the driving force to say, "Well, no, you definitely are important to the world in terms of the work that you're doing today," because what you're doing today has got this, it's got heaps and heaps of, struggles behind it, right? Or what you're kind of what you have created today. So today,
Right.
when somebody looks at you and says, well, you're doing this amazing work and this is amazingly good work for the world today and everything, but it was not even like 5 years or 6 years, before, if we just rewind back into your life.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so, what do you think sort of drove you, or what was your drive through this whole big, big, major patches of failures or dark patches, if you would like to call them that?
Yeah, first of all, let me tell you, nobody tells I'm doing great work even today.
I did, and I think you are doing great work. I mean, it's people like it's the same thing, that the work that you're doing is what is the need. It's what I feel is the need for the hour. Now, someone might say that I'm mad, which is fine, but I feel the kind of work and the energy that you bring in, and the sort of like getting people, and it's like a mode of friendship where you don't stand as somebody, you want people to share, and you're there as a guide to help people, encourage them
Yeah,
to asking these
yeah,
difficult questions.
yeah,
And I think that is what the need of the hour is. That's what
right.
I feel now. Together we can definitely be a part of a big delusional club and be labeled like mad people of the world, which is fine. But that's what I feel, so I think it's great work.
No, I'm perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine being myself, and I have actually come out of that whole framework of people, and whether they approve or they disapprove. I'm happy. I'm just happy being myself now. And I have won my freedom from, you see, so the biggest battle that you have to fight is that of social approval. And you don't fight that battle by winning it, right? You
Yeah.
fight that battle by finishing the need for it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in Advaita. I mean, you actually when you come to the truth, you are out of all forms of seeking, attachments, all those things. Even if they do exist, they don't exist in that same strength as they did when you were ignorant about the true reality. So when I mean, uh, I don't, I don't think that to anyone I would say that. In fact, I always keep saying that, because when you asked me in the beginning, how do you talk about self inquiry to people?
Mm.
So most of the times I tell, are you prepared for destruction
Mm.
of, Krishnamurti has written somewhere that nothing goes up there, everything will be taken away from you. So
Yeah.
if you're not ready for this, it is very, most people don't take it up to that extent. That
Mm.
is why, because you're going to lose everything
Mm.
in this journey.
Mm.
Your dearest things, your most precious, dearest things. How else would it be, right? You can't be with your attachments and be with the truth.
No, you can't, for sure. For sure.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
You say that you follow Gyan Yoga, that we all know now. So,
Right.
what is the source of this Gyan that you mentioned? And also, what is it that you seek now?
Okay. So Gyan Yog is basically coming from the Upanishads. Okay. And if you go further than that, the Upanishads come from the Vedas. So the Upanishads are the end portion of the Vedas. And this is called revealed wisdom, which means it is not
Hmm.
of human origin. This is, the Vedas are supposed to be existent eternally in the creator. Okay. And the creator reveals it to the rishis, and the rishis reveal it to the students, then those students become teachers. So there's something called sampradaya, a lineage of transmission of this teachings, which has existed since the time of creation and which has come down to the present day. And I am part of that lineage. I am a part of that chain, which is transmitting this knowledge to the present day. So that is the source of Gyan Yoga. Did I answer you?
Yes, yes, you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And my next question was, what is it that you're seeking now, that you seek now?
Okay. For that, you have to first understand, who am I. The person that is speaking to you is not who I am essentially. Okay. I am
Hmm.
basically Brahman, which means I am the source. Even that is not the right word. I am the entire existence, eternal existence. All right, formless existence. I am that. So I don't, in my essential nature, I'm not seeking anything. And I have existed like this since eternity, and I will exist like this till eternity. So it's the end of all seeking.
Okay.
Beautiful. That's very beautifully
That's,
put, Anurag.
yeah.
Thank you. I think, does anyone on the call have any questions for Anurag? Because I just realized that we are already almost an hour into this whole thing and we are talking. Okay, probably our guests are too silent to ask you any questions.
Hi,
Oh,
hi Anurag and hi Tapusri,
Gautam,
Gautam.
Gautam, thank you for this connection. And this session is entirely because of you. So jump in.
Uh, I'm a little speechless. In fact, before the call started, I was framing in my mind all sorts of questions that I want to ask Anurag, and I'm sure uh, I'm kind of right now little speechless on as to what to ask. And I've known Anurag for almost 7 to 8 years now. I think
Yeah, yeah,
2013.
yeah, yeah.
Although he says that he became a teacher in 2020 March. Fact,
Yeah,
we've not been in touch for the last 3 years. He's been
right,
my, I call him as my teacher, guru, friend, philosopher, guide, or whatever name you might call it. And I think in the journey I've had with him for almost 3-4 years, Anurag, you actually, of course, today you spoke, you know, just on Advaita and how you've actually finally settled on Advaita. But I
right.
think those 3-4 years, you kind of guided me through various paths, because I think
Yes, I
initially
did. Yeah,
when it was more around Ken Wilber and Aurobindo.
right.
Uh, Krishnamurti was always there as a, uh, and then I think somewhere in between, of course, Advaita was there, non-duality. You helped me come out of a phase where it was when life felt actually all meaningless. And
Okay.
where in fact the direct path, and that's something which I would like to know from you right now, because you're talking about self-inquiry, whereas we did a lot of time inquiring around the whole Buddhism path, and
Yes,
especially the direct path of Advaita.
yes,
And of course, Tantra, which probably started with this whole thing. And that's one question which is right now striking to me is that phase where you, I, and Kavita, who's now actually big time into Tantra, where we actually getting Aurobindo experience over there. So what
right.
actually really what was it about Advaita, or why is it that after exploring all this path? So is it that for you this is the path which is given you all the answers and the others did not give you the answer, or
Absolutely.
others are
Absolutely.
equally right? Others are
Yeah,
equally right, and
yeah,
what
yeah.
was it about this which actually you know clicked?
Yeah, right, right, right. Actually, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, in all other parts, there was a question that remained. And that was my, because I'm a person who does not believe in anything, you know. I don't go on belief. I have a question and it needs to be answered. And even if it's a teacher of any repute or teaching of any repute, I don't care. I needed the answer to my questions. And in all the systems that I went through, I had my questions. I wouldn't say this for Buddhism, because Buddhism is also, I mean, some schools of Buddhism which are also inquiry based, right? I haven't gone in great depth, but I think Madhyamika is pretty close to Advaita. I mean, that is why they keep fighting a lot amongst themselves. So, leaving that school, I felt Advaita was the only school that gave me all the answers, um, and absolutely, without any doubt. I mean, I can field any question from anyone across the world with these teachings. So that kind of confidence no other teaching gave me.
But then, of course, you spoke about knowledge being the ultimate, and
Yes,
experiences are all uh, transient in nature. But
absolutely.
to reach that state of knowledge, isn't that experience needed?
See, now there are two schools about this. Okay. If you go into Gaudapada's Mandukya Karika, all right, he speaks about people with, now this may sound a little okay, but I'll still go ahead. So talks about people with high intellect and people with middling intellect. Okay, so people with high intellect, he says, they go directly to Advaita, which is called asparsh yoga. Asparsh yoga means you are contactless. Yourself, you as awareness doesn't contact anything at any time. So you don't have to remove any impurity from yourself. This is a very important point. You all must get this point. This is the biggest point. Just like space, it is the most subtlest element. So nothing can ever So there's a verse in Gita, right? Water does not wet the space, fire does not burn it, the sword doesn't cut it. So what Advaita is saying is you don't have to do anything. You're already that. I mean, you're already space. You don't have to purify yourself to become space. You have to claim the fact that you are space. And the moment you know it, you're free. You're indestructible. You as awareness are indestructible. You are not creating awareness. You're already awareness. Now this happens, this is done with people who have got a very sharp and high intellect. That is why this is called Gyan Yoga. Now so Gaudapada says, now if people are troubled by their minds. So what Advaita says is, whether you are thinking, not thinking, doing this, doing that, sleeping, lying, standing, talking, not talking, doing anything in any of the three states, you as awareness is never affected by it, right? Now there are some people who cannot come to this. They feel very, very disturbed by the mind. All right, the mind has got all kinds of desires, all kinds of thoughts, all kinds of feelings. Of course, in Advaita too, I mean, you don't come to Gyan Yoga till you have not made your mind very sattvic. All right, but beyond that, Advaita doesn't bother. I mean, it doesn't bother about ending the mind. But what yoga school, which is very allied to Advaita, and that is why many modern teachers mix yoga and Advaita, yoga says you have to end the mind. Only then you will be liberated. Okay, because yoga has got a philosophy that there are two realities. There is Purusha and there is Prakriti. They both are real. Just like it is the same in Tantra. Again, where Purusha and Prakriti both are real. How is Advaita different? Advaita is saying there are no two realities. Prakriti is not real at all. Prakriti is just a reflection, which is there like in a mirror. All right. So you don't have to do anything with the Prakriti. You just have to understand that the Prakriti is an unreality and you have to claim yourself as awareness. And then the Prakriti does what it has to do. It doesn't bother you. Right? So this is this. So if you feel that, you can come to this state where the mind doesn't bother you, you come to a silence, to your essential nature. Okay, let me give it to you by another example. Let's take a pot, a clay pot. All right. Now the clay pot is a form, right? But what is its essence? Its essence is clay. Now, as a pot, I may know myself as pot, or I can know myself as clay. Okay. Now, what's the difference between the two? If I know myself as the pot, as the form only, then what happens is that the pot can break, right? And therefore I'm in fear because I want to preserve the form. If I know myself as essence, as clay, then I don't care. I don't care about the form at all. Whether I am a pot or whether I'm a shattered pot, whether I'm a powdered pot, whatever I am, doesn't matter, because in essence, I'm never destroyed. So Advaita would say that you know yourself as clay and that's the end. And what yoga would say is, no, you have to end your mind. Put an end to all the vasanas, put an end to the mind. And only when the mind ends, do you know your real nature. Which is also actually the teaching of Krishnamurti. Behind all his gloss and all his whatever he's saying, he's actually talking yoga at the end of the day.
Beautiful. Do you have any more questions, Gautam?
Lots of questions. I've always had lots of questions for Anurag, I think.
Okay, does anyone, let me ask other people, does anyone else have any question? pretty much know. So Gautam, you can continue. You can fit in one or two questions more.
Yeah. So I think it's probably my questions are more coming from my own interactions and my own journey with Anurag in the last all these years. We've not been in touch, of course, for the last couple of years. Anurag, if you remember, there was a time when you actually introduced me to the direct path of Krishna Menon,
Great,
or
good.
with Greg Cood. So how
Yes,
would
yes.
you, where does that now fit in the overall Advaita teaching or self-inquiry that you're doing?
Yeah, I was in touch with Greg Good for this for a long time. In between Jan and I think December 19 and Jan 20, because he was the main culprit for me to
Mm-hmm.
detract from Advaita, and he also coincidentally became the person who got me back to Advaita. So he mentions at the end of his teachings the collapse of the witness, right? I had already reached my witness stage in 2012. Uh, and this actually just blew me off. What I understood from Advaita was that the witness is the end. And then you have this teaching coming up, the direct path, using the same word called witness. And then it's saying that the witness also ends. So that was a huge problem for me. And if you go in Buddhism also, especially if you go in Madhyamika, and they talk about that the witness is actually an imputation. It is not real. So I felt that somewhere I'm missing my point. Somewhere I have not reached the whole truth. And actually, this is supposed to be the work of the teacher who guides you through the teachings, as opposed to the other schools. That's called polemics. So I because I was not in good terms with my teacher, so I couldn't ask him the questions, and even if I did ask, I did not get the proper answer. So I had to do a lot of dialogue with Greg Good, understanding what he's talking about. I had to go through a lot of Buddhism teachings and groups to understand what they are talking about. And even during that time, I almost converted to Buddhism. There was a day when I said, okay, I'm out of Advaita. And this was in 2020, right? And I'm out of Advaita and I'm going to take up Buddhism now. And I started reading the book of Dalai Lama. But then then Greg Good was teaching me Buddhism. But then I always used to come back to this witness thing. so
Mm.
so he got bugged with me. He said, Anurag, I think you need to stick around with Advaita because this is too powerful in you. So, and he couldn't, uh, this is one thing I found, that the teachers are not giving direct and clear answers to their students. And the biggest thing about a traditional teaching is that the answers are there in the scriptures. You don't have to rely on the teacher. You can go and read Shankara's teachings to get the answer. And that's what exactly I did finally. I went back to Shankara, I went back to Gaudapada. And when I went back to Mandukya Karika and Gaudapada, I just found it. I found that the Buddhists are talking about the same word witness, and Greg Good is talking about the word witness in a different way than from Advaita. Right? Greg Good does not follow Advaita. He followed Atmananda Krishna Menon. Right? And these are very subtle differences which cause a huge amount of difference in the teachings. So even in Advaita, you will find many teachers talking about Samadhi. Okay? But Advaita has got nothing to do with, like Shankara has written um, against Samadhi, how it is not the truth. But still, because of the influence of Vivekananda and many other teachers, Swami Vidyaranya and all that, This samadhi teaching, even if you read a book like Vivek Chudamani, it talks about samadhi in an Advaita context. So there's a lot of immixture that happens in the teachings, which I had to sort out, you know. And then finally, when I came to Advaita proper, that is Shankaracharya and Gaudapada, then I understood, all my doubts got resolved at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in Advaita, the witness never collapses. That's not possible. Witness is what you are. Okay, witness is awareness. So it never collapses. It's there present in all three states beyond space and time.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah, can hear you.
yeah.
It's pretty interesting, Anurag, because and it's pretty interesting to know that Greg again came back into your journey. That's as recent as 6 months back. And what's also interesting to me is I think it was Greg who finally got Kavita also into the path of Tantra. So
Okay.
I think she's a I think her books are doing pretty well, and she's a big tantra teacher. And Greg has written the forward to
Yeah,
that
I know that.
bestseller. Yeah, to that bestseller. So it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. I think so. I guess it's I don't know how would I put it. Maybe it's all different paths, probably leading to the same destination, but one helping another. I don't know what to say.
No,
One
no,
last
no,
question.
no.
No.
No, this no, not at all, not at all. I mean, that's a very, very difficult thing for if you go in that direction, because Buddhism is talking about something absolutely different from Advaita. Okay, I'll just spend 2 minutes talking about this. Right? What is the difference? For example, Advaita, take the stock example of a snake on the rope. Right? You are walking in the dark and you see a coiled thing in the road and you imagine it's a snake, right? So that's what is Advaita's theory, that the phenomenal world is being perceived due to an error of perception. Because you don't know the reality of the rope, you are seeing a snake on it. Okay, now that's Advaita. So what Advaita does is it teaches you how the snake is not the reality but the rope is. Okay, so it helps you negate the snake and see the rope, and the moment you see the rope, you're free from all fear. Okay, so what Advaita is saying, that this phenomenal world, which includes your own body, mind, intellect, it actually does not exist. It only appears to you. You in essence are that rope. You in essence are formless. You're beyond all forms, and that's the end of suffering. It's only when you take yourself as a form that you suffer. When you are formless, there's no suffering. There is no experiencer, there is no doer, there is no action, there are no parts, nothing. It's the end of suffering. Now, what Buddhism says is, it also takes the snake and then it says, it asks you to investigate and tell, where is the snake? And then you say, see, this is the snake. So they say, oh, that's the head. Then you say, oh, this is the snake. Then they say it's a tail. Then they say, this is the body. Where is the snake? There is no snake. So what Buddhism is saying is that you are composed of aggregates, what they call the skandhas, right? And the movement of these aggregates is producing an illusion of a permanently existent self. Just like if you take a torch of fire and you whirl it in a circular motion, what happens? You see a ring of fire, right? But there is actually no ring. It's just momentary moments. So what Buddhism is saying, there is no self. There are just moments of consciousness which are flowing, which are always in a state of flux, and that is producing an illusion of a permanent self. So now you can see how different these two teachings are. They're not the same,
Mm.
right? And now let's take, these were two very different teachings. Now let's take Advaita and yoga. There's a very subtle difference between the two. Advaita is saying that Prakriti, or what Shankara is saying is that this phenomenal world or Prakriti, it is a superimposition. That means it does not really exist. It is like a reflection. Whereas what yoga is saying, and this is very close to even Jainism, that they are saying that this Prakriti is real. It is as real as Purusha. So what yoga says is you have to eliminate the Prakriti in order to come to the Purusha. See, just this small difference has created such a big difference in methodology of both the schools. Advaita says you don't have to eliminate the Prakriti, you have to eliminate the ignorance that this Prakriti is real. And yoga is telling you have to eliminate the Prakriti. So this difference causes what? In yoga, you have to end your mind, you have to end thought. In Advaita, you have to end ignorance. It's not necessary for you to end your mind or for thoughts to end. The thoughts can go on. But then if you go into the depth of it, you will see that the position of yoga is not tenable. I mean, if you go into the dialectics as to how can there be two realities, for that you have to go into the philosophy. You will see that yoga cannot hold its position. Shankara has, refuted all these schools in his Brahma Sutra.
Yeah, but then I think one question which I have not had an answer so far is, and that's something which I learned from you, is the integral teachings, which is yoga plus Advaita.
नहीं. See, integral is again, see, okay, let's come to Aurobindo now. Okay. So why did I go to Aurobindo? I'll give you the reason. Now, because I didn't have a teacher who would answer all my questions. Now, I had got to the witness stage. I had got that insight. But, the biggest thing about Advaita, which you have to get finally, is that this world is unreal. Actually, the technical word is not unreal. The technical word is apparently real. I mean, it is called mithya. It is neither satya nor asatya. It is mithya, which means that it appears to exist, but it does not exist. Right? For example, the snake on the rope, is it existent or is it not existent? How would you answer it?
Existent but not real.
Right, absolutely. So that's the status of the world. Now, I could not understand this part, right? And if you can't understand this and you take the world to be real, tab all the teachings will come through that gate after that. Okay, then integral will come. Actually, integral is nothing but a variant of Advaita Vedanta. If you go through my articles, you'll come to this. It's called Bheda Bhed. Okay, even Vedanta had, 6 schools after Shankara. Shankara is Advaita Vedanta, then you have got Vishishta Advaita, then you have got Dvaita, then you have got Shuddha Advaita, then you have got Bheda Bheda. Okay, so integral is to do with Bheda Bheda Advaita, and again you will see the subtle difference and how the subtlest of differences. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear, right? So how the subtlest of differences can cause the greatest of differences. Now what Bheda says is, yes, it agrees that Brahman is the ultimate reality, but then it is saying, what Bheda is saying, that the forms are also real. So the analogy that it takes up is that of the ocean and the wave. Okay, they say that ocean is also there, the wave is also there. What is Brahman? Brahman is the water. Ocean is the universe, wave is the individual, and Brahman is the water. And for a very long time, I was caught up with this analogy, with Bheda Advaita. Right? And it still wasn't, I was getting stuck at some places with some questions of mine. Only when I came to, so this Bheda is actually saying that this creation is real. Whereas the Shankara's Advaita Vedanta or Gaudapada's Advaita Vedanta is talking about what is technically called Vivartavad. Vivartavad means this existence is only an apparent superimposition. It is not real. So if you these small differences create huge differences in your life. You can just imagine, you are taking this to be real, how you're going to act in this world, and if you're taking it as apparently real, how you're going to act in this world, right? So this whole integral thing then goes away, because all forms are unreal, I mean apparently real.
Beautiful. We have a comment in the chat from Vikram Dravid. He said, answered my unasked question. So he had a question which he didn't ask, but you have answered it, thankfully.
Thank you, Vikram.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any question? I can see, Anurag, we have had you for 1 hour and 29 minutes approximately. I mean, I know we agreed on an hour, but we have gone over time, and thank you. I hope the whatever, your experience on the today was as nice for you as it was for all of us. We learned a lot, and thank you for sharing so much with us today. Any last thoughts that you have that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I also enjoyed the space to talk and to express myself in a very receiving environment. So thank you for that. And I wish you all the best for the work that you all are doing. For, as you said, we belong to a minority tribe, but actually, so my last thought is on this only. Krishnamurti used to tell this very often, that this body is existing only for the teaching. And though I was very enthralled with this, I never understood it, what he actually meant. And today I understand it. I mean, I would say the same thing for my own life, that if I am existing, if this body is existing, it's only for the teaching. It has got absolutely no other purpose. It will just drop if not for this. And thank you for for being a part of this journey of mine in this respect.
Thank you so much. That was very beautifully put. Thank you. And I wish you all the very best, and hope more and more people come to you and you're able to help people answer and steer the way around through all these difficult questions and conversations that many of us and many like us who do not want to indulge in. So thank you for the space that you created. Thank you for all that you do and you are. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Tapashri. Thank you, Priya. Right?
Thank you, Anurag ji. Thank you for a lovely session today.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you, everybody who's joined us today. And I'll see you next week with another guest. And next week is going to be the end of our series, The Dive and the Driver at Tea. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.